Picture this. In one part of the world, a child wakes up in a home where everything simply works. The temperature is comfortable. Breakfast is cooked instantly. Lights respond at the flick of a switch. Water flows clean and safe. Information is available at the tap of a screen. Energy is invisible here. It is so reliable that it is taken for granted. Now imagine another child. They wake up not to prepare for school, but to begin a task that has existed for centuries: collecting fuel, wood, charcoal, anything that burns. Because without it, there is no meal, no warmth, no basic comfort. When daylight fades, their world fades with it. Not because they choose to rest, but because darkness is absolute. This is not a difference in preference. It is a difference in possibility. The World Bank estimates that roughly 700 million people still live without access to electricity. That is not a marginal issue. That is a global divide. And yet, much of the modern conversation is not about expanding access to all sources of energy. It is about limiting energy use to renewable energy, mostly wind and solar. That contradiction is where this story begins. Think of progress as a ladder. At the bottom is survival. At the top is prosperity. But here is the crucial detail most people overlook. Energy is not one step on that ladder. It is the ladder itself. Without energy, there is no upward movement. History makes this clear. The rise of industrial societies did not happen through intention alone. It happened through energy transformation. Coal powered the early factories that turned raw materials into mass-produced goods. Oil unlocked mobility, shrinking distances and connecting economies. Natural gas brought reliable heating, electricity, and industrial efficiency. Countries like the United Kingdom and the United States did not debate whether to use these resources. They used them extensively, relentlessly, and they prospered. Even today, according to the International Energy Agency and other sources, fossil fuels still supply more than 80% of global energy. This is not because the world lacks alternatives. It is because alternatives have not yet replaced the scale, reliability, and affordability that fossil fuels provide. Energy systems are not like mobile apps that can be updated overnight. They are massive, interconnected, and deeply embedded in every aspect of life. Replacing them is not just a technical challenge. It is a civilizational challenge. Now consider what energy actually does. Energy multiplies human effort. Without it, productivity is limited to human strength. With it, one person can do the work of hundreds. A farmer with machinery can cultivate vast land. A factory powered by energy can produce goods at scale. A hospital with reliable electricity can save lives that would otherwise be lost. Energy is not just convenience, it is capability. This is why global data consistently shows a strong relationship between energy use and human development. As energy consumption rises, so do incomes, life expectancy, and quality of life. No country has ever achieved modern prosperity without dramatically increasing its energy use. Not one. Now shift your focus to the developing world. In countries like India, economic growth is accelerating. Cities are expanding outward and upward. Infrastructure is being built at a pace that is difficult to comprehend. But beneath that growth is a constant and growing demand: energy. In many regions across Africa, including Nigeria, electricity is not something you rely on. It is something you hope for. Power outages are not rare. They are routine. Businesses invest in diesel generators not as backups, but as primary sources of power. Imagine trying to run a hospital, a factory, or a school under those conditions. From space, the inequality is visible. Satellite images of the Earth at night show entire regions in darkness, not because people are absent, but because access to energy is limited. Now step inside a home that relies on traditional fuels. A fire burns indoors. There is no chimney, no ventilation system. Smoke fills the air. Children breathe it. Mothers breathe it. Day after day. According to the World Health Organization, around 2.1 billion people still rely on polluting fuels like wood and charcoal for cooking. The same organization estimates that nearly 3 million people die prematurely each year due to household air pollution. This is one of the most overlooked health crises in the world, and it is directly tied to energy access. Now consider the paradox. In many global discussions, fossil fuels are framed purely as a problem. But for billions of people, access to modern fuels could dramatically improve health, reduce indoor pollution, and save lives. Energy is not just an environmental issue. It is a human one. Now imagine being told to build a modern economy while avoiding the very tools that enabled every successful economy before you. This is the challenge facing many developing nations. Renewable energy is improving, costs are falling, deployment is increasing, but it is not yet a complete system. Solar power depends on sunlight, wind power depends on weather. Storage solutions exist, but scaling them across entire national grids remains expensive and complex. Even advanced economies have struggled with these realities. In parts of Europe, including Germany, aggressive energy transitions have coincided with rising electricity prices and concerns about reliability during periods of low renewable output. For wealthier populations, higher energy prices are an inconvenience. For poorer populations, they can be devastating. Because energy is not just another expense, it is the foundation of all other expenses. Energy is embedded in food production, in transportation, in manufacturing, in healthcare. When energy costs rise, everything rises. This is why institutions like the International Monetary Fund emphasize the broad economic impact of energy prices. For developing countries, where margins are thin and resources are limited, these effects are amplified. Higher energy costs mean slower growth, fewer jobs, reduced opportunities. Now we arrive at a deeper question, one that goes beyond economics, a question of fairness. The countries that are now advocating for rapid reductions in fossil fuel use are the same countries that used those fuels to build their wealth. They climbed the ladder. Now they are suggesting others take a different path. Imagine running a race where the first runners are allowed to use the fastest equipment available. They reach the finish line. Then they turn around and say that everyone else must complete the race using less effective tools. Is that fairness? Or is that rewriting the rules after the outcome is already decided? This is not about assigning blame. It is about recognizing reality. Energy access determines opportunity, and limiting access has consequences. Now consider another angle that is often overlooked. Energy poverty does not just limit economic growth, it limits resilience. In regions vulnerable to extreme weather, reliable energy can mean the difference between safety and disaster. It powers cooling systems during heat waves, heating during cold spells, water systems during droughts, medical response during emergencies. In this sense, energy is not just about development. It is about survival. Now think about time. In energy-rich societies, time is saved. Machines do work that would otherwise take hours or days. In energy-poor societies, time is spent on basic survival tasks, collecting fuel, fetching water, manual labor. This time cannot be invested in education, entrepreneurship, or innovation. Energy, in a very real sense, creates time, and time creates opportunity. Now consider the idea of choice. In wealthy countries, energy debates often revolve around preference. Which source is cleaner? Which technology is more sustainable? In poorer countries, the debate is different. It is not about preference. It is about access, about availability, about affordability. Now ask yourself this. If your daily life depended on reliable energy, if your family's health depended on cleaner cooking methods, if your future depended on economic growth, what would matter most? Long-term global targets or immediate, tangible progress? This is the reality for billions of people. There is no perfect energy system, only trade-offs. Fossil fuels provide reliability, density, and scale. Renewables provide cleaner generation but introduce variability. The challenge is not choosing one over the other in absolute terms. It is navigating a path that allows development to continue while improvements are made. But for that path to exist, it must start from reality, not abstraction. Energy is not just about infrastructure. It is about human potential. Every light that turns on represents possibility. Every machine that operates represents productivity. Every powered hospital represents life saved. Denying or restricting access to that foundation has consequences that extend far beyond energy itself. And until this reality is fully acknowledged, the global conversation about energy will remain incomplete. Because at its core, this is not just a debate about climate or policy. It is a debate about people, about fairness, about opportunity, and about the fundamental question of who gets to prosper. If this video gave you a clearer way to think about energy, then you already see something most people don't. Because the world is changing fast, understanding what's really happening with climate and energy policies has never been more important. This channel is about cutting through the noise. No hype, no extremes. Just clear, grounded thinking about energy, climate, and the systems that shape our lives. If you value that kind of perspective, welcome aboard. Please take a moment to like and subscribe if this helped you see things differently. Please share and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the next decade of energy decisions will shape everything. So the more we get people to understand the reality, the better for us all. See you in the next one, and stay well.